Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, in which we are going to recap some of our presentations from the recent MoodleMoot. So we're calling this Best of the US MoodleMoot Lessons Learned with eThink. As we get kicked off here, we have a pretty full agenda, so I want to touch on that agenda and also introduce myself here to start. I'm Josh Mitchell. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at eThink. We're going to have a lot of time here today to go through our presentations, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit to tell you what's coming up. Before we do that, I'm just going to give it a little bit of context about who we are here at eThink and what our service model entails, so you have some idea for who's speaking to you and the kinds of things that we do for our clients. Then we will get to our presentations. We have 4 members of our team here to go through each of their presentations and give you a brief synopsis of what they presented a few weeks back. Then we'll have a little bit of time, I expect, for your questions at the end. To that end, if you could put any questions that you have in the questions pane in GoToWebinar, you can put them there at any time, and we'll be able to keep an eye on them. And when we get to the end, we will sort through those and hopefully give you some answers as we get to the end of the session here today. There's also a chat feature, but please don't use that. Just place anything you have in the questions pane. All right, so our presenters here today from our team, and they're not going to say hello just yet. You're going to hear from them when we get to their presentations. But we have Sarah Vanderpool. She's a client onboarding specialist on our services team. We have Amy Tessitore, who's a client care analyst. Jeff Brewster is one of our solutions architects. And our COO and one of our co-founders, Cheryl Pitsevos, is with us as well. That's actually the order that they will be speaking in, so you'll be hearing from them very shortly. As I said, I want to give some context here. If you're not familiar with eThink Education or you've not ever seen one of our webinars before, I just want to give you a little bit of a sense for who we are and what we do and what makes us really different. We are a Moodle partner. We're the largest Moodle partner in the world, as a matter of fact. We are a premium Moodle partner as well, which means that we can also offer and host for our clients Moodle Workplace in addition to Moodle. So I believe our presentations here today are primarily focused on Moodle. I might be wrong, but we do offer both products to our clients. What really distinguishes what we do vis-a-vis other Moodle providers or other Moodle partners is this notion of full management. It's a much more service-heavy model than what anybody else in this space offers. We host with Amazon Web Services. We have a very scalable, very reliable environment there. And actually, that's been put to the test the last 6 or 7 months with COVID, as many of our clients have much more heavily utilized the system than they did before. And we've really, I think, passed that with flying colors, keeping our sites running without any degradation of performance. That's not necessarily been true of everyone in the Moodle space. So hosting, I used to like to say, was the easy part, but I think COVID has proved that wrong. But nevertheless, we do that with AWS. Then we have very defined processes when we bring clients on board to our services to really understand what their needs and objectives are. We take a very consultative approach with our clients, where we want to understand what their needs are, what their vision is for the LMS, and then take them through a process to really configure the site specific to their needs, to really try to make it optimized for their use so that it is something that they will use and will stay with for the long haul. So that very consultative, very service-heavy approach is pretty unique in this space. Just to give you a few more examples of what I mean by full management, we handle all of the underlying theming for our clients. So we show them their theme options. We do all of the CSS work and all the configuration of the theme to get that looking and feeling the way that they want. We do a lot of customizing of roles and reporting. Those work a little bit differently, whether we're talking about Moodle or Moodle Workplace. Both have tools to do each. But we do a lot of that customization for our clients. Those are standard support requests. When somebody wants a report, they put in a support ticket, and we go ahead and create that for them. We do a lot of training for our clients as well. So webinars like this, we do when new versions of the products come out. That's one way that we do it. We have asynchronous courses that all of our clients get as part of their package with us. We update those every time a client upgrades. So that's another way that we're continually introducing new features and new functionality to our clients. We do instructor-led training with our clients as well. These days, it's all over Zoom. In the past, we would go on site in many cases and do that in person. But those instructor-led training sessions are very customized toward a particular client's needs. In terms of how we handle the product, we do keep all of our clients on separate code bases, which really gives them the opportunity to take advantage of what makes these products special, which is that they are very flexible and they are modular. So we allow our clients to, or we install for them, I should say, we install and configure pretty much any plugin or module that they might want. Sometimes people bring us stuff and we say this hasn't been supported in 4 years, we wouldn't recommend it. But generally speaking, they have full flexibility to use whatever it is that may be pertinent to their use cases. And we have a lot of expertise as well in the area of integration. So that is something where we have an entire technical services team who basically work all day, every day to build out integrations with between Moodle and external products and solutions. We're always having clients bring to us new solutions we've not integrated with before, and then the job of that team is to explore the desired functionality and the options, and then ultimately build out integrations that hopefully meet those needs. I want to say, and I only have about one more slide here, or maybe two, that really what we hang our hat on as an open source software service provider is providing great support. So it's not just a matter of saying unlimited full management means that we'll do everything on the back end of the software for you. It's also unlimited support. And that only really works if we are very timely in our response. And what you see on this graph, these are the last 10 months of 2020 worth of data here. These are the average times when our customers put tickets into Zendesk, which is our ticketing system. This is how long, on average, it takes us to respond, to actually get a human response to them. And so these numbers, we used to say we're under an hour. Now, based on this data, I can say it's roughly a half an hour on average. This is really impressive stuff in the LMS space. I think this is pretty unique from our team. And this is really what makes our clients sticky with us. This is what keeps them with us over the long haul. This will be my, I think, last slide before I introduce our sessions. I'll let you read these as I wrap this up. These are some actual quotes from our clients, and I think this sort of experience is not uncommon. We've had clients that have been with us for almost the full 13 years of our business, and in that 13 years, we have grown very rapidly while also maintaining a retention rate of about 98%. So it is that commitment to service and the quality of the people who are on our services team that really does make our model special and keeps our clients very sticky with us. So with that, here are the presentations that we have for you today. Again, we're going to do these in brief from the MoodleMoot a couple of weeks ago. First up is going to be Sarah Vanderpool with training your team on how to use Moodle, and she will then go from there to Amy. So I will go ahead and introduce Sarah. I'll stop sharing my screen. So Sarah, you should have control now and can pull up your slides and you can take it away.
Yep, so I've got show screen and y'all should be able to see my PowerPoint slides. Is that right?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome, all right. So my session from the MoodleMoot was about training your team on how to use Moodle. So I am using the PowerPoint live captioning, so hopefully this is not too much in the way of the PowerPoint slides. So I can stop it if we need to. All right, so there are 5 ways that I am going to go over that we recommend on training your team. So we're going to talk a little bit about instructor training, which of course is the approach that we recommend, but is not always something that we can do. Self-paced training courses, and then a train the trainer pure mentor approach. We'll talk a little bit about quick video tutorials and then wrap it up with clearly defined assistance. So let's talk a little bit about instructor training. So we know that the ideal way to train folks on how to use Moodle is to provide that instructor training. Whether it is face-to-face or virtual, these days it's probably virtual. And there's lots of ways we've seen our clients do this. And we know that it's really hard to get folks in a room together to sit down and go through an hour or 2 hours worth of training. So we've seen folks do it in different ways. Some of our clients, such as JA Canada, they were able to break some of those topics that they wanted their faculty, their instructors to be trained on into smaller chunks. So 30-minute training sessions, 1-hour training sessions, And the key there is to record those so that instructors who are maybe unable to attend can watch it later, or if they want to go back and review a topic, such as quizzes, we know how in-depth quizzes are, they can go back and review that recording. So we do have other clients who have been able to identify really large chunks of time where instructors are available for training. So one of our clients was able to block out 5 full. That's not always feasible for everyone, but it was for this client. And their goal at the end of those 5 days were for the instructors to earn a Moodle certification, a certificate that said, I've gone through this, intensive 5-day training, and I am more prepared to teach my courses online due to COVID. So what we did is we led 2 2-hour virtual training sessions each day. We formatted our day, our training, to be able to have a session in the morning, and then immediately after, we gave time for instructors to practice. That way they could put to practice the information we just provided to them so that, it obviously easier to retain that information. And then we had another 2-hour session in the afternoon. Throughout that, we also had a course that these instructors were working through. This was their evidence of learning. So you can see this is a screenshot from our Moodle course that we guided the instructors through. We had our learning objectives stated at the top. And then we had 2 activities for these instructors that would serve as their evidence of learning. So they had an assessment piece and a homework piece. And these were directly tied to our learning objectives for the day. This allowed them to practice what they just learned. It also allowed them to see things from a student perspective. So they were submitting assignments and quizzes, and that allowed them to see what their learners would see. We talked a second ago about recording. So we know that not everyone could attend every session the whole time. So we made sure, these are session resources, I'm sorry. So we also put resources in the course as well. So after that time, after our virtual training, so if instructors needed to go back and they knew we talked about, all right, they showed us the dashboard page, but I can't quite remember how to start courses, we put those resources in there so that the instructors could go back and look at the resources that we went over during our virtual training. And then, of course, we recorded those sessions as well. So all of this information was housed within the course. So instructors could go back, watch the session from the morning, look at the resources that we covered, and participate in the assessment and homework activities. We also had Moodle work for us. We used activity completion and restrict access to simplify the facilitation of the course. As instructors were working through their assessment and homework activities, they were meeting the criteria that we indicated with activity completion. We also used restrict access. So we would restrict the topics to not be shown to the instructors. It was 1 hour before the session. We didn't want to overwhelm them with everything in the course. And then we use that activity completion, which are those checkboxes that you're seeing on the right, and the restrict access to determine who earned that certificate at the end. So we were not having to go back and see who completed all the assessment activities, who completed all the homework activities. We let activity completion and all that work for us. One of the things that we learned throughout the course, throughout this extensive training time, was that we needed to have that pertinent information at the very top of the Moodle course. So things such as the link to our Zoom room, because this training was virtual. So we use the same Zoom room the entire time. That was there. we had a raise your hand forum. So this was a really great piece for instructor collaboration. They could ask a question, and it was so awesome to see their colleagues jumping in and answering their question or saying, me too, I'm not quite sure how this works. They were also using that platform to be able to share how they do things in their courses. So that was a really great way to bring that virtual training, some more collaboration to it. And then, of course, we had the training agenda, because as we set things up, we were having topics build upon each other. And so we were getting a lot of questions in the beginning about, oh, well, when are you going to cover quizzing? And we would say, oh, that's going to be Wednesday afternoon. And so sticking that training agenda in there was ideal. So the second way that you could train your team on how to use Moodle is to create self-paced training courses. One of the benefits of being an eThink client is we provide self-paced training courses to you. And we have a handful of courses that we put on our client sites, courses for learners, courses for Moodle administrators, courses for instructors. So this is a screenshot of one of our courses where we outline what the goal of the course is, provide folks with a getting started book so they understand how the course functions. And then we recommend if you're building a self-paced training course and the goal is to train folks on how to use Moodle, think about what are those topics that you're wanting your learners or your instructors to become more familiar with. So for example, if you're wanting to train folks on the quiz tool, so what are those things that you're wanting folks to know how to do? So as you can see in this screenshot, we set up those learning objectives first, and then we build those activities to help guide our learners through the course to meet those learning objectives. We use a variety of content in our self-paced training courses. So for example, in this one, we're using a lesson, we're using a page, we're using quite a few things so that folks can also become familiar with Moodle and acclimate themselves to how Moodle works. We're also hoping that, so for example, by using this lesson activity, that instructors, if they're working through this self-paced training course, that they would see how the lesson activity works, and then they may think of ways to implement that into their course. We also like to put in assessment activities into our self-paced training courses. For the students, for our learners, that allows them to have a safe place to see how a quiz functions in Moodle, to see how an assignment functions in Moodle, and then similarly for instructors, for them to be able to see what their learners are going to experience. So we really like to incorporate that assessment piece into the self-paced training courses as well. So that's also something to think about when you're building these out. So when we think about these self-paced training courses and how you get folks into them, there's lots of ways that our clients do that. So sometimes our clients will automatically enroll folks into these self-paced training courses. So they might enroll all their students into the course or all of their instructors into the course. Or you can always use the self-enrollment method as well. We see some of our clients who will put the link to the courses on their Moodle homepage and explain what it is and allow folks to just go ahead and self-enroll. So like I said, we do recommend if you're thinking about building that self-paced training course for your team to get up to speed with Moodle, we do recommend sitting down, thinking about those learning objectives, mapping out those topics that you want folks to become more familiar with, and definitely think about throwing in some assessment pieces as well. So the next way you can train your team on how to use Moodle is a train the trainer peer mentor approach. Now, one of our clients, Simpson College, implemented this strategy in the spring. So as they were navigating COVID, just like the rest of us, they realized that they could not feasibly take all of their face-to-face courses and move them online. They needed some help from their faculty. So they reached out to some of the faculty that they worked with frequently and said, who is willing to serve on a peer mentor team. And as you can see, this is their list of peer mentors, and a lot of folks stepped up to the plate. So what their Moodle admin did is they used this peer mentor team almost as like tier 2 support. So they asked the peer mentors to self-identify what they felt comfortable and confident in. So as you can see under the photos, they identified those tools that they felt comfortable and confident in. So whether it was Moodle or Zoom or something else. And so faculty could go to their peers and say, hey, I'm trying to build a quiz. Can you help me? And so this allowed the Moodle administrator to really handle those tier 2, tier 3 questions. And the tier 1, tier 2 support went to these peer mentors. It also allowed faculty to learn from each other. So they were able to ask questions again about how they were implementing some of these face-to-face strategies in an online environment. So a peer mentor team is absolutely something that we recommend as a way to train your team on how to use Moodle. Now, the fourth way is quick video tutorials. Now, as we're working with our clients lately, we've had a lot of questions about video tutorials. Folks are looking for quick, short videos on how to do things in Moodle. So we look at what are some of those frequently asked questions that we get from time to time. And if you're going to start building short video tutorials, we recommend looking at those first. What are those questions that you are answering repeatedly? Is it about posting to forums? Is it about building a quiz? And then we recommend that you start with those. Sorry, I had to cough, and I didn't want to cough in the headphone. So we do recommend keeping those short, as I don't know if y'all can see the timestamps on these. They're all under 2 minutes. So we recommend keeping them short. And we also recommend, like I said, looking at those frequently asked questions. Also, don't forget there's already resources out there. So don't reinvent the wheel. Is there a great Moodle video out there that you can use and you can share with your team? I know I go to the Moodle YouTube channel, which is what you're seeing a screenshot of, and I look to see, is there already a video out there? Is there one that fits the need of what my client is asking that I can point them here? The Moodle YouTube channel has awesome playlists, so I do recommend looking at that. Like I said, do not reinvent the wheel. And then lastly, clearly defined assistance. So making sure you outline where can folks go for help. So is it a raise your hand forum like I talked about in our course? Is it knowledge base articles? Do you utilize Moodle? So this is the Simpson College, they utilize Moodle and the course curtain to put those links to assistance. So folks knew where it was, they could get to it quickly, they could get to it easily, and it was accessible. So those are the ways that we recommend training your team on how to use Moodle. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Amy.
All right.
Amy.
Thank you, Sarah. Yep. So are you able to see my full presentation right now? I'm not sure which.
We see in like the slide sorter mode. So I think you need to.
How's that?
Same.
Let's try that one.
There it is.
That work?
Very good.
Okay.
Yep.
It's always a struggle. All right. So I just want to thank Josh for the introduction earlier and Sarah for the lead-in. My name is Amy Tessitore, and I am a client care analyst with eThink. And so my session at the US Moot focused on how to use Moodle to support hybrid learning. And so there's just my title slide there, and I'm just going to hop right in. So in the last several years, we have had to embrace a lot of changes in education, not just in the last 6-7 months with COVID. So pre-COVID, we also had a lot of changes. But during COVID, there's been a lot of changes for our learners, their circumstances and needs, how and where they're learning, as well as our circumstances and needs as educators. But hybrid learning has been growing for a long time. It's been a growing trend. Moodle, thankfully, is very well adapted for hybrid learning between varied activities, resources, communication, and connection. when we were at the US Moot, we looked at how Moodle could be leveraged, how we could leverage those tools to effectively teach our learners, whether they're learning in one location or multiple locations, as often happens with hybrid learning. And so we really wanted to focus on some of the main aspects of Moodle that can promote that hybrid learning and the connection and relationships you need to form in that setting. We'll take a look today at some of the activities and resources that can be used, communication tools, and ways to help you form those connections. So some considerations for your hybrid courses. When we think about hybrid learning, there are many considerations we need to take into account. And I know most of you are already a step ahead, thinking about and taking action to address many of these. But these are some things to consider. When it comes to organization, how do I keep things organized in Moodle? How do I keep And when it comes to differentiation, we have to ask ourselves, can we continue to provide differentiated learning for our learners? And what tools can we use in Moodle to make that happen? And how do we do that without creating an insurmountable amount of work for ourselves? And then finally, assessment is always at the top of our minds, I think. And things may feel quite different when we're assessing online versus assessing in the classroom. But Moodle's varied assessment options ensure that you can fully and equitably assess your learners no matter where assessment takes place and no matter where that teaching and learning took place. So I'm going to stick on this slide here for a little while. With all of these questions in mind, we'll look at some of the answers, and all of those answers can be found in Moodle. So Moodle has an activity or resource or tool to support hybrid learning regardless of the hybrid model you're using. So whether you are in a hybrid model that's heavy on classroom time or a hybrid model that gets rid of classroom time and only has contact time through labs or observations or things of that nature. So from easy to navigate options to the use of built-in audio and video, you can leverage many tools to provide a comparable and enriching environment for your learners. So 4 things I looked at were organization, communication, differentiation, and assessment. And here you'll see that I've provided 4 features under each, so 4 for each of those topics. And so I won't be able to get into as much detail today as I did at the Moot, but we're going to dive into some of this now. So when we look under organization, we know that course success rates are much higher when a course is well organized, when people can find what they need when they need it, and they can navigate through and they can assess what their responsibility and the expectations are in a very meaningful and logical way, they have a better chance of being successful. So that begins with course organization. And thankfully with Moodle, when we build things in Moodle, it is super easy to move things around and lay them out in a top-down fashion or whatever the logical flow is that you're choosing. So no matter where you add things, you can always move things around very easily in Moodle. And then along those same lines, the restrict access feature is one of my favorite organizational features in Moodle. And I say that because restrict access allows you to set criterion that, when met, allows your learners access to whatever that particular activity or resource is. So this helps us to keep our learners where we need them, when we need them there. But it also helps us to create a bit of an individual learning pathway, so that a learner has to achieve a certain score on something or complete one activity before they can move on to the next. So when we're not able to have those check-ins with them as regularly as we might have previously, we're not able to see them as often to assess that physical feedback that they're giving us, we can use things like restrict access to make sure that our learners are where they need to be, when they need to be, and they're not arriving at things before they're ready to tackle them. Then we went on to the calendar. So Moodle has a built-in calendar feature, and that feature can be exported to link it to any other calendars that you have. So if you are using Outlook or you have a smartphone, you can connect the calendars, which is really helpful. But the Moodle calendar allows you to create calendar entries, and you can do those for the course, for the site, for specific groups within your course. So you can tell people exactly where they need to be and when, and they'll have a reminder that tells them. And then each time you create an activity like a forum or an assignment, those will populate on the calendar as well. So when your learners log in, they have that calendar to look at. If they're using something like the upcoming events block, that will also pull from the calendar and give a list of things that are coming up. And then finally, under organization, announcements. So in Moodle, the courses populate with an announcements forum right at the top, and that's a one-way forum. And depending on your site settings, you can create as many announcements as you want and then set visibility dates for them. So if I want my course to be organized and I want to make sure that my learners are getting an announcement from me every Monday morning at 9 a.m., but I'm not sure I can log in every Monday morning at 9 a.m., I can set the visibility option and pre-populate all of those announcements for the whole semester and then set them to become visible on the applicable Monday morning at 9 a.m. I can also set them to disappear when I want them to. So that prevents you from having an overload of announcements in your announcement forums. But this is a great way to convey to your learners what the expectations for the upcoming week are, or if there have been changes. We were going to meet on this day, but we're not going to be able to do that now. So by having that one-way communication that can be timed and meaningful and intentional, you can keep your whole course organized and on track. And so kind of leading that announcement forum sort of leads us into the communication piece that I talked about. So forums are a big part of communication, not just the one-way forum where we make announcements and not just discussion boards. We can have all types of conversation in forums, whether it's a general discussion or something where we want our learners to go out and research and share that information. But forums also have the advanced feature of being able to incorporate audio and video. And you can record those right from the Auto Editor toolbar with Moodle's built-in audio and video features. So you can create an increased sense of communication and presence by creating small snippets, video and audio snippets directly within Moodle. All of these help to promote your communication. And then finally, Moodle Messaging. This is probably one of my favorite features that Moodle has developed. It's well developed, it's easy to use, and it has a lot of application. So I can individually message people, or as a teacher, I can send a message to my whole course. Or if I enable group messaging and I have groups in my courses, I can enable students within specific groups to have conversations just within their group. So if they're working on a group project or they're all going into lab together, they're in a lab group, they can converse just amongst themselves. And studies are indicating that younger people are less likely to use email and more likely to use messaging apps. And Moodle messaging functions very much like a messaging app, which makes it more well received and widely used than traditional email for most cases. And then we move on to differentiation. And so with differentiation, we're talking about providing content in the ways that our learners need. And that need isn't static. Learner needs are very fluid. So while there may be something that I learn well from a video this time, there may be other things that I need to be able to read. I need to read the steps instead. So providing differentiated learning means putting out that content in multiple different ways so that the needs of your learner at any given point in time are met, whether you know what those needs are or not. So things like book, lesson, and pages, which are all built right into Moodle, allow you to create content in a variety of ways. On any given page in any of those, you have access to the Auto Editor toolbar, meaning that you can use different fonts, bolding, underlining, you can make bulleted lists, you can insert tables, audio, video, you can record audio or video in them, images, documents, and a variety of other things. So that allows you to use one page to deliver content about one topic in a variety of ways. Or in the case of book, you could create a chapter on a topic and then have different pages broken out for presenting that chapter information in different ways. And H5P, which is now fully incorporated into Moodle 3.9, fully integrated, also offers a variety of options to create differentiated learning, from using course presentation to using branching scenario, adding different activities within things, you can provide content and the opportunity for learners to engage with that content through various knowledge checks and activities. And then finally, assessment, the elephant in the room, right? We all know that we need to be assessing our students, and sometimes we feel that changes a bit in a hybrid model or even in an online model, but the reality is it doesn't necessarily have to change. In cases where maybe I had people doing a presentation in front of the class, that doesn't have to change. My learners can still record a video or audio of themselves and submit it. One of the great things about Moodle is it allows for differentiated assessment. I can use the assignment model and have someone submit a written assignment or make a choice to submit me a video assignment or an audio assignment or a graphical representation of an assignment. And I can do that through lots of different ways. So I can assess my learners using one tool like assignment, but allow them to choose an assessment that suits their needs and allows them to show me what they know. But I also have things like forum and quiz at my disposal in Moodle. So I can create all different types of quiz questions within Moodle. I can vary the feedback types, offer different testing options for my students, and I can use forum as well. And forum, as I said before, can be so much more than just a discussion board. Forum can really allow your students to engage in a meaningful learning as a group, learning from each other, teaching each other, and gathering knowledge together. And so these were the main points that we talked about when I was at the US Moot this year. And so hopefully, if you have any questions about any of this, please do put them in the questions area there. And I am just going to turn things over now to Jeff. So I am going to, there you go, Jeff, you should have controls now.
So can you see my screen yet? Or
Yep, you look good. You just have to start the slides.
Yep, there we go. Okay.
There you are. All good.
Thank you. So what we're going to talk about today is with Moodle Workplace, and the previous presentations were on Moodle, but we're going to look at multi-tenancy in Moodle Workplace. And so first, let me introduce myself. My name is Jeff Brewster. I am a customer solutions architect here at eThink. I've been here for just over 2 years, but have been working with Moodle for about 17 years, mainly in higher education, but I've also been doing a lot of corporate, working with a lot of corporate clients as well lately while I've been working here at eThink. And so what we're going to talk about with multi-tenancy here is, first of all, give you kind of a description of what it is. We'll go over one use case, and then we'll see if you have any questions, probably answered at the end. So feel free to type any questions into the presentation as we go along. So first of all, what is multi-tenancy? So I'm going to use an example of a client that we're just starting to onboard. I just talked to them yesterday, and right now they are running 9 separate Moodle sites. And they're going to bring all of their, all those 9 separate Moodle sites of different people that they're training into one Moodle Workplace site, and we're going to use multi-tenancy to house the users and courses that are going to be a part of their particular training offering. And so it's going to make their, and as they told me yesterday, it's going to make their administration of their site a whole lot easier, because they're not going to have to keep track of 9 different Moodle sites. And so what constitutes a multi-tenancy in Moodle Workplace? And so one of the first things is that each tenant is going to have a separate set of users. And so if you're familiar with Moodle, each site will have a set of users, and those users can go really anywhere. They can be assigned to classes in any place of the site. Each user will have a kind of a good look and feel. But in multi-tenancy, each tenant has its own separate set of users. Users can only be in one tenant, so they're only going to see things related to that one tenant. Users can be moved between tenants if that's a requirement or a necessity. And users can be also assigned in their particular tenants with a user upload. And that can be accomplished by a tenant administrator. So in regular Moodle site or Moodle course site, there's usually one administrator account. In Moodle Workplace with multi-tenancy, each tenant can have its own administrator, and that administrator has control over the users in those sites and other super users, and then the tenant administrator can manage those users by uploading them into the site. They can add them to courses and programs and certifications, which are also part of Moodle Workplace, and and so they just basically have the control over that particular part of the site. And so then, like I mentioned before, each tenant can upload users into their site. So that's one aspect of multi-tenancy. Another aspect of multi-tenancy is that each tenant has separate courses. So if you're familiar with Moodle and the way the courses are set up, you can know that you can put courses into particular categories. In a Moodle Workplace site, when you set up a new tenant, a course category is assigned to that particular tenant. And then all the courses available in that particular course category are only available to that particular tenant, with an exception that we'll talk about in just a second on the next slide. And so tenant administrators, which we talked about just briefly when it came to users, can only create, edit, and assign users to the courses in those particular tenants. So, and then all other Moodle permissions, such as teachers and students, et cetera, remain within those particular tenants. So the permission structure with the regular Moodle when it comes to courses is going to be pretty much the same. And then courses can be assigned to programs or certifications unique to that particular tenant as well. So the client that I had yesterday, that I talked to yesterday, one of the things that they want to do is they have a series of courses that they want to have assigned to each particular, to users in all of the tenants of their site. That can be accomplished because of the next part about multi-tenancy in courses is that courses can be shared between those tenants. So you can have a group of courses in one category, and that category of courses can be shared with all of the other tenants. And so what this means is that you can provide learning to several different entities that are coming in with separate user bases, and as we'll see in a second, also separate color schemes and logos and things like that. And you can assign those courses to users in all of the tenants by sharing those courses between the tenants. And one of the nice things about that is that only the tenant administrator or only an administrator or a full administrator of the site can edit those courses, so that you can have control over the content of those courses and still share that between the other tenants. The tenant administrators and those other tenants can assign users to those courses. They can add them to programs and certifications, which is another part of Moodle Workplace. But they cannot edit the content of those courses. So so that means that the primary user of the site, or the people who are administering all the training and everything, can have control over that particular content. And then another nice thing about that is that if the users are assigned to courses as part of a program, they can automatically be put into separate groups within those courses, so the users can be differentiated even among the courses. And then one of the final things, and we'll talk a little about a few things, is each tenant can have its own colors and logos. And what I have here on the screen are 3 different login pages from our eThink demo site, and it's all the same site. And so each of the login screens are different. They have different pictures, they have different colors, they have different logos, and so and these can be set up by the tenant administrator. And so you can have a separate kind of login experience for each of the particular tenants. And these login screens can have separate URLs as well. So if you're linking from another system, and you can direct the user to the particular login screen. Now, once they get into the site, the URL will be the same for everybody, and it knows what logos and color schemes to have because of the user and what tenant they're assigned to. We can also do further customization of each particular tenant using custom CSS. Okay, and this is kind of an example of the screen that will take care of the logos and color schemes, and each tenant administrator can do this themselves, so that you don't necessarily have to contact your vendor, although we at eThink will do it for you as well if you would like us to. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a one use case here. It's Tech Trap. And Tech Trap, what they are is they provide comprehensive and sustainable and affordable STEM classes and entrepreneurship program classes for kids. They came to eThink from Kansas, who had no multi-tenancy, so they had no ability to separate the user experience. And Tech Trap could not provide administrative access to their clients, which slowed them down because they had to do all of the client admin work. And with Moodle Workplace, each client got a separate tenant, so they could delete irrelevant courses if they wanted to. They could register students, they could award them badges and have access to student profiles without the ability to see everyone. And then they also set it up so that prospects, people who are wanting to buy their services, could see sample courses through a default tenant that everybody automatically gets access to. And also homeschoolers are able to purchase Tech Trap courses while also being on the default tenant. And then another part of multi-tenancy is that reporting feature. There's a report builder built into Moodle Workplace, and those reports are separated by tenants as well. So if a tenant administrator wants to set up a report, they can just report on their particular users. And so each school administrator is able to report reports on just their particular users in their particular tenant. So there are other possible use cases. The extended enterprise is probably what we were talking about with the client we just started onboarding yesterday, and with Tech Trap they have kind of an extended enterprise model. You could even imagine like a large corporation having different departments and giving each of the departments a separate tenant so that they could have control over the users. Although there are other ways in Moodle Workplace using organizational hierarchies to differentiate between departments for maybe smaller organizations or even large organizations if that's going to work for them. You could have distributed learning, so a retail or hospitality chain could have a unique tenant for each of their locations, and to provide, the tenant administrator could be, over their particular users. This could be especially useful if there's a lot of turnover in those particular retail chains, so you would have control over the users that get there. And so each location could manage their own employees. And so you could also have something with internal or external users. So you may provide training to the general public, and you could also provide training to your employees with onboarding and things like that. So there are lots of possible use cases of with multi-tenancy. And please let us know if you have any questions, and talk to Josh if you want to set up a demo of Moodle Workplace. We'd be glad to do that for you as well. And with that, I will. Let's see.
I'll take it, Jeff.
Okay, got it. Good. Thank you, Cheryl. I was looking for the right buttons. Thanks.
All right, so let me turn on presenter mode here. So the last topic we have for today is the topic of supporting the culture, company culture with Moodle, which is something we spoke about at the Mood and that we have done here at eThink for quite a long time. And it seemed relevant in these times to bring up. Obviously everyone is dealing with a whole set of new challenges that they've never had to face before in terms of types of work environments and sort of dynamic and immediate changes to those without a lot of time to plan and anticipate. So some of you may be working on suddenly fully remote teams. Some of you may have been on a suddenly fully remote team that is now partially remote or part-time remote. At the same time, the job market remains very competitive, particularly in the world of education technology. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. So it is important now more than ever to create and sort of deliberately focus on the type of workplace culture that each organization has and how that can be reinforced in a remote environment. Does every organization have a culture? Absolutely. Whether you openly recognize that or not, there is always a culture that has formed and is operating on a day-to-day basis. And at eThink, we learned that culture is really crucial to an employee's satisfaction and happiness with their job on a day-to-day basis. And that if we spend time and deliberately focused on the topic of culture, that we could more accurately create a culture that reflected the values and goals of our organization. So that is something we've done here at eThink, and in order to do that, we've used Moodle. And Moodle is a wonderful tool for creating and maintaining your organization's culture. Whether you're in a face-to-face, a fully remote, or any sort of middle ground there work environment, part of creating culture is about having something that everyone can get to. And Moodle is one of those things. So it's always on, it's accessible to everyone, and it gives you a forum to do many of the things that help to contribute to employee satisfaction and happiness. Things like recognition and rewards, reinforcing values, and then also required training and compliance. So nearly every organization out there these days has training requirements. If those are annual security training, if those are HIPAA or FERPA training, if that is diversity training, all those types of training can be done within Moodle in the same way that you might think of Moodle as a vehicle for teaching specific classes about targeted subject matter is probably the reason you have Moodle. But Moodle itself has a lot of other applications in terms of this culture topic. So how do we use Moodle here at eThink? We have badges, and we use those badges to help reinforce our employees and their experience. So, much like badgification and gamification are super popular when it comes to students and encouraging them to complete courses, it also contributes to, in the same way, to a company and building a culture of recognition and rewards. So we have been able to create badges for anniversaries, number of years you've been here at eThink, for completed training courses that are required, and also for things that we do on a monthly basis. For example, we have an eThink Love Award that allows us to contribute or recognize an employee each month who's gone above and beyond to do a particularly excellent job. So those badges are housed within a Moodle instance, and you can go in at any time and see who has the most badges or who recently got a badge. And it's a really fun way to get everybody thinking about how they can do more to participate and sort of accumulate badges for themselves. We also do a job swap, and we have an annual job swap badge. And we use Moodle to do this job swap. So we assign a member of each team to a member of another team. So, for example, here at eThink, we have folks that work on the services team that may not always get to see the sales process and what that experience is like. So they have the opportunity to spend time with a salesperson and see the beginning of a client's experience and how that contributes to their end experience and get a more holistic understanding. So we use Moodle to assign the job swap partners, to collect basic facts about when and where and how it happened, and also to have an open forum to discuss feedback and observations from that job swap. So that way, everyone is able to see what others have experienced, everyone benefits from others' observations, jokes are made, other people share in those jokes, and it's a more sort of, though asynchronous, iterative way to have and share an experience with coworkers who may be geographically diverse. We also use Moodle for PTO tracking, and I put this in here just because this is a common challenge that organizations have is finding a way to keep track of a ever-changing PTO balance. And we've been able to use the database module in Moodle to do that. And it's a pretty cool way to do that and make it accessible to each employee and allow them to keep track of their own PTO balance. And it's another way that we help reinforce a culture of encouraging folks to take the time off that they have been allocated and enjoy. And then we use Moodle for annual compliance training. So we complete an annual security training course here at eThink. Each employee is required to do it. They get a badge at the end. They do the whole thing in Moodle. There's recorded segments, there's quizzes, all sorts of fun stuff to make sure that we're all fully trained on the requirements and the security that comes with having the jobs that we hold and the responsibilities that we have. We also do a diversity training in the same way via Moodle, and that allows us to reach everyone in the company very easily with a consistent message. And then finally, we use Moodle for employee training. So as we onboard new employees, we use Moodle as a vehicle to train them, to teach them how Moodle works while using Moodle. We have a Moodle administrator training, we have new hire onboarding, and we also have how to use Moodle training. And those are all built into Moodle as well. And all of that contributes to the employee's experience and the type of information that's accessible to them that helps round out their knowledge so that they can be more successful at their job. So Moodle has really been a key tool for us in terms of building and maintaining a culture. And that was something that we thought would be helpful to share and give others an idea of what's possible with their Moodle instance as well. So that covers this segment, and I will turn it back over to Josh to kind of wrap things up and give us some closing notes.
Right, terrific. Well, I'll just pull up contact information on the screen here so that if you have any questions and follow up to this, you can feel free to reach out. I know we have a number of clients on this call as well, so if you have questions, you can submit those via Zendesk as you normally would, or ask them of your the folks that you are in touch with here on our team. We do have a couple of minutes for questions, and scanning through here, I know everyone's been looking through and answering a few in writing, but maybe the first one that I'll try to ask, and I think Amy, you are going to be the one to answer this, but there was a question about denoting different sections in Moodle and wanting to group videos together and files together, and how you would do that.
Right, so that's something that you can definitely do within Moodle. And if you were going to use, say, the topics format, for example, you could have a topic that was for quizzes, a topic that was for video, and you could house all of those things in the individual topics. And then there's a variety of ways that you could present that. You could have people just visit the topic, or you can make things available but not shown on the course page, and then create links to them in context. So if you have the week laid out and you're telling someone you need to take this quiz, the quiz part's a link and it pulls right from that section you've created where you house all your links. So there are lots of different ways to section things in Moodle to be able to keep content chunked together, content types chunked together.
Very good. Thanks, Amy. And then Jeff, I think the next one you will be able to field. And the introduction that you gave to multi-tenancy, was at a pretty high level. So there were a couple of questions about multi-tenancy that we could spend a lot more time talking about. But maybe I'll just kind of generalize the themes together a little bit and just ask you to speak for another minute or so about how permissions and access works both within and between tenants, and kind of how we manage that.
Yeah, sure. So like I said before in the presentation, each tenant has its own set of users, and there can be one or more users that are designated as a tenant administrator. There are also other permissions that can be given within the tenant, such as course creator and things like that. And within each tenant, the tenant administrator will be the ones that will be able to edit the courses within their tenant, including the shared courses. So you could have, one or more categories. You can have subcategories in tenants as well, and you could share out those categories into subtenants. And so the tenant administrator would be able to edit those courses that are shared, and also the courses that are not shared within their tenant. And so, and also the tenant administrator would also have no permissions to do anything with the users or anything like that within each of within the other tenants. There will be, when you come to eThink, there's a client administrator, so there's an administrator over the whole site. They will also be able to go into each tenant and have administrative power over the users, and also permissions to edit the courses. So the permissions can be distributed around, but primarily if we're talking about tenants, they have complete control over their courses and users. No one else will be able to edit those courses, so tenant administrators of other tenants will not be able to edit those courses. They will be able to assign users to them, however.
Very good. And I will say,
yeah,
absolutely. And for the gentleman that asked that question, we're happy offline to do a much more detailed discussion about workplace and just sort of weigh the pros and the cons of using the multi-tenant architecture versus perhaps organizing things differently within Moodle or within just a single tenant within workplace. So that's always something that we try to make sure clients understand is there are sometimes some trade-offs, and so you really want to think through those. But I think, Jeff, thank you for answering that one. I think we have answered a couple of the questions. We tried to combine a few of them and have answered a few more in writing. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time here today. We're right at the top of the hour. So I want to thank everybody for attending. Like I said, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out either to me if you're not one of our clients, or to the support team if you are, and we're happy to follow up with those. So again, thank you for attending, and thank you to our fantastic team members here for your presentations today. And we will look forward to speaking with everybody on a future session. So everybody have a great rest of your day.